Hey, it's Cass Murray here, and we are always talking about looking for your next opportunity, keeping your eyes open. We don't talk a lot about resumes, and I'm getting a lot of responses from people who are interested in me looking at their resume, reviewing their resume, all these things. Now, keep in mind, as a recruiter and as someone who works with hiring managers every single day, and not just one, but multiple hiring managers, what they want to see are two things on your resume. What do you want to do? And what have you done already? So let's keep that at the very top, first and foremost on your resume. A lot of times, new grads will put their education up at the top of their resume and realize something that I think a lot of us have forgotten over the years. But if you're really dug deep in your industry like I am, and you go to set up your resume, you never put your education up at the top because all of your other great experiences there that you'll put up at the top, the first half of your resume. And it's funny because I think we all forget that as time goes by, we push down that education further and further and further on the resume so that it's really on the bottom. So, what you're essentially doing are a couple of things. You're following the practice of resume writing over the course of the past few decades, where you've started with your education up at the top, but then as you gain some more experience, you knew internally that that experience is more relevant than your education necessarily, so that you put it up at the top. So something deep inside of us knows that the things that are super important to hiring teams need to go on the top of the resume. The most priority items need to be up on the top of the resume. So we're just going to look at a few here. I just Googled, some sample resumes just for us to look at because I don't want to point anybody out here. But I wanted to also make a note for those of you that feel that ageism is an issue in the interview process. That's not everyone, but some people do feel like that's a challenge for them. My suggestion is to grab that education and put it up at the top. You do not need to list dates on your resume for your education. You do not need to list dates for a lot of things, actually, on your resume, believe it or not. So let's actually take a look at a few resumes here. And the first one that I wanted to mention was this, because it's not necessarily a resume, it's a cover letter. And what you'll see is one document separated from your resume. Now, that's fairly traditional. My theory is to switch it up. And the reason why I say this is because so many times I will be looking at a resume and I'll say, wow, what's this person doing? Like, what's their plan? What's their plan for the next few years? So the only way you're going to find that out is if you go to a cover letter. Now, I'm not that person or that recruiter, but I can tell you over the course of my 2 decades of experience, plus some, that many recruiters will look at the very first section of your resume and spend a very few amount of seconds, 3, 4 max, to look for keywords on your resume. So my suggestion is to take a portion of this cover letter and pop it into your resume itself. Now take a look at this one. When we're looking at this resume, we see a profile here. I absolutely love it. The only thing that I would change is I would remove profile and put something that says about me. You don't need an intensive cover letter until you're in a very certain part of the interview process, and we're going to go over that later. But for this video, we're going to talk about putting just a sampling, your elevator pitch is what we used to call it. And that bit is going to go right front and center on your resume so that anybody who's curious about you is going to look at that and get more information. Now, here you can see the work experience is very clearly listed. What I always suggest to anyone on any resume is what you're doing is you're trying to satisfy your reader, okay? I understand that we're all very protective and personal about our resumes, and maybe we've spent a lot of time digging and looking even at templates like this to try to get a good idea of what is the best way to describe ourselves, but also to describe our background and our history and experience. What you need to know is that your resume is a fluid document, and it should be treated that way because we want your resume to fit the position you're applying to at the time that you're applying to it. Now, the reason why I say that is because you need to take a look at the position that you're applying to. So of course, you'll have your standard resume here, and you're going to keep a copy of that. But for every opportunity that you apply to, when you go to the position, assistant, manager, hotel, jobs. Let's look at these. Okay, so for instance, let's say La Quinta. This hotel assistant manager position requires previous experience in a supervisory or management role within the hospitality industry. Now, let me be very clear here. We are not copying qualifications and pasting them into our resume. That's a huge no-no, and that's the laziest thing I've ever seen done. And trust me, I've seen it. Don't do it. Don't let that be you.